Greeting, stranger. Welcome to my cabin. I know I said I would be back on the deck swiftly, but I confess I have become quite distracted by this bundle of journals and papers. I had quite forgotten about them all until a ream of the things got loose from one of my satchels. I made the mistake of skimming the words as I picked them up, and, well, nostalgia did the rest. What are they? Chronicles, annals, missives, notes, and interviews pertaining to the Pathfinder Society, mostly written by its own agents and venture captains. The Pathfinders have many traditions, yet I think historians are most grateful for the habit of documenting as much of their goings-on as possible, even if most of it never reaches the public sphere. Almost all of it reaches one of their archives, though, and I happen to have a few friends there, so let's just say I like to keep myself informed. Since we're on the subject, perhaps you would like to learn more about them. The Pathfinder Society represents the single most successful adventuring body in the known world, and that extends to many other dimensions and planes of existence as well, as best I can tell. Everybody has at least heard of the Pathfinders, even if opinions about their activities can be rather diverse. I think their fame has been both a blessing and a curse, though. There is still plenty of disinformation that flies around lips loosened by tavern alcohol. The truth is, when yours is an organization as established and well known as the Pathfinder Society, rumors are bound to circulate. Most of them are false, but some of them are true. Come, take a seat, and allow me to continue the cycle by providing my own overview of these professional adventurers. You may recall that I gave a high-level summary of them during my tour of Absalom's foreign quarter, but there was much omitted then that ought to be recounted now. Indeed, I suspect it will take quite some time to detail the Pathfinders, so I hope your enthusiasm extends as far as mine. Well then, let's begin at the beginning. The year is 4307, and it is the 23rd day of Farlong, the month scholars call Desnus. The place is a rather unassuming tavern in the merchants' quarter of Absalom, which today you will find in a state of some dilapidation in the coins, called Pig's Paunch. The time is just before sunset. A rowdy group of veteran adventurers is meeting to engage in a night of carousing lubricated by as much cheap booze as they can handle. We do not know how large this first group is, but history records 9 names that will prove important. In alphabetical order, these are Adolphus, a scholarly man from Taldor who would later marry into the Beaupenese royal family and co-found Nexus House in distant Quantium. Durvin Gest, a legendary fighter and explorer whose untimely disappearance only lent his considerable fame even more prestige. Ilysia, a gnome whose steadfast commitments to common sense in the face of overwhelming boisterousness from her drinking partners would ultimately lead to her going into hiding for hundreds of years. Gregaro Voth, a half-orc well-versed in druidic lore, who was believed to have died in 4364, until 4 years ago, when he was rediscovered trapped in a demiplane in the Mwangi Expanse. Inali Buvkram, a dwarf who would spend many years rescuing precious artifacts from the destructive warmongering of Taldor and Qadira. Kerinha Napsusar, a Nexian historian and linguist who would pioneer the development of the Napsu Sign Language, in which basic proficiency is considered a vital skill for any aspiring Pathfinder today. Noita Gledero, a Taldan logistician who would largely retire from adventuring to dedicate her final years coordinating the rapid initial growth of the young Pathfinder Society from its Absalom headquarters. Selmius Foster, a merchant prince and avid seeker of knowledge who would more or less single-handedly open the spice trade between Vudra and Absalom, and whose manor house in the foreign quarter remains the foundation of the Society's Grand Lodge. And finally, Toraya Almiran, a Kelishite warrior who would traverse the crown of the world into Tianxia and later found the Decemvirate to lead the flourishing society. Together with any number of other companions and followers, and deep in their cups, they begin to bemoan the perils of an adventurer's life. Funding for expeditions is almost non-existent, and what little an individual might secure is frequently tainted by political interference or just plain greed. What's more, many of the more academic adventurers like Adolphus and Kerinha are struggling to reconcile their love of archaeology and discovery with the realities of essentially ransacking ancient sites for plunder. Despair lurks in the bottom of their mugs. But then someone, history does not record who, suggests that professional adventurers should unionize. After all, the artisans have their guilds, and the merchants their associations, so why shouldn't explorers have their own organization? Instantly, the mood shifts. Vigorous nodding of heads occurs. Mugs are drained, and fingers begin to drum on tables. Absolutely, it is only fair. There are many factors to consider, though. Most obviously, it does not behove explorers to stay in one place for long. The hour is now late, yet there remains much to debate. One imagines one of the more enthusiastic drinkers suggesting migration to a second tavern, a fresh environment to foster creativity. Agreement infects the 9 founders and many others. Some doubtless disagree. They have things to do in the morning. They cannot tolerate more alcohol. This idea is ridiculous. The dissenters leave, and history turns its back on them. The group reaches the Crimson Coin in the Foreign Quarter, a larger and more notorious dive. As well as food and drink, the coin also offers endless opportunities for gambling, and it is also the preferred tavern for gladiators fighting in the Aurorium. None of this really matters to the adventurers who enter that night, though, for they are already in fierce debate over how this Adventurers' League ought to function. What will its primary purpose be? Someone suggests that it should be to protect the interests of those brave souls who risk everything to discover lost treasures. Murmurs of agreement, but the tone is wrong. It seems too inward, too myopic. There is the potential for something great here, something world-spanning. They can all feel it. They cannot be just another guild. Another round is ordered. Someone else then proposes, Elysia or Kerinha perhaps, that it should be an archaeological society, first and foremost. All of Golarion should be their excavation site. This is better received. Another drinker points out that calling themselves members of an archaeological society will mean they strike outsiders as being far less motley and disorganized than some drunken explorers in a pub. Cheeky, but fair. They settle on this proposal, and between themselves and another full round, agree on their core tenets: explore, report, cooperate. Another pub is chosen. A few more drifters go home, but most now stumble towards it as fast as their legs can carry them. A slightly concerning amount of time later that night, the 9 founders and their auxiliary companions proudly announce themselves to the patrons of the Vert Pippin Parlour house in conservative Westgate. One must imagine the mutual disgust. Perhaps this serves as an inspiration to discuss the politics of their burgeoning group. Surely such a distinguished group as they should not allow any fool waving a sword around to call themselves a member of whatever it is we're calling ourselves. No, come the cries, but words of caution follow from someone who has doubtless seen the dangers of autocracy firsthand. We must not allow ourselves to become dictatorial. Solemn nods follow, carried by heads made heavy with fatigue and spirits. The time spent in the Vert Pippin is short compared to their other stops, but they use it well. They collectively agree to make their organization a democracy, but to limit membership to those who can prove their value as archaeologists and explorers. Easier to overlook, but even more crucially, they agree to reunite, though they continue to debate when and where. It seems one final tavern is required. Apparently rebuffed by the Westgaters, and the Ivy District probably too uphill for their now thoroughly inebriated selves to stomach, the 9 founders about face and stagger back to the Foreign Quarter. Therein, they locate a smaller dive called the Wounded Wisp and order their next round. It is around this point in our tale that primary sources begin to solidify our understanding of that night. It seems someone remembered that no organization is complete without a catchy name. "Tell that to whoever founded the Union of Carpenters, Stonemasons, and Metalworkers," shouts a voice. Laughter erupts, then silence falls. Some are deep in thought, the others are deep asleep. Finally, Durvin Gest, being more resilient to alcohol than anyone else present, suggests the name Pathfinder to capture the exploration that is fundamental to their careers. Furrowed brows soften, sleepy nods abound. Kerinha then appends society to the end of Durvin's term. Guild evokes racketeering. Organization feels too generic. Group sounds like a front for a cult. But society? Well, society captures the spirit of cooperation that started the pub crawl. More affirmative nodding. A final toast to this name is called. The 9 founders agree to reunite at the Wounded Wisp in exactly 1 year's time, which will give them ample opportunity to prove their worth to their new colleagues, and probably let them sober up as well. Thus was the Pathfinder Society founded. Or so the tale goes. Well, stranger, this was how the Pathfinder Society was founded. We do not know how many companions were present at the beginning, or how many made it to the end of the night, bar the original 9. Indeed, even among the recorded names, some, like Durvin, are much better documented than others, like Inali. Still, what more can you expect from a drunken pub crawl? It is truly remarkable that their idea survived at all, let alone evolved into a truly global phenomenon. But you must give me a little bit of time here to organize my notes before continuing the story. The truth is that one can recount the founding without access to many primary sources because, well, hardly anyone deigned to write anything down, and those who did struggled to agree on many of the finer details. I think it is obvious why. Go on, head back onto the deck. I will join you in a moment, and we can continue our tour. But don't worry, we are not done with the Pathfinders. Not even close. Well, until then.